The hood is up because it is symbolic of a dark place and dark emotions that I'm feeling about my favorite football team right now. I'd probably close these blinds, but then you wouldn't be able to see me. And then it wouldn't be a vlog. It would be more like a podcast, I suppose. I could never have imagined being this sad about a 6-3 Bills team. Think about that. 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. The Bills are 6-3 and I'm sad. Sounds insane. But here we are. You could probably point to 10, 20 things about Sunday's game as the reason why they lost. And you'd probably be right with every single one of them. What a cataclysmic series of events, of one thing just setting another fire, just setting something else ablaze, and suddenly there's just a big bonfire of loss. I can't believe it, really. Should we start with the good news? If we can find any? What's the good news? The good news, I guess, is that the number one thing we were concerned about heading into the game wasn't really an issue, and that's Josh Allen's elbow. There was some weird pregame things going on where he didn't come out on time for warm-ups, but he comes out for intros, and he's there on the sidelines, and the Bills receive the kickoff. He heads out there. They go 3 and out, so I'm a little bit leery about it. But he ends up throwing for over 300 yards, rushing for 84 more on one of the interceptions. He's trying to punch the ball out of the guy with his bad arm, with his quote-unquote bad arm. He's lowering his shoulder into people when he's running. So I'm just going to assume from here on out that Josh Allen is fine, or will continue to be fine. You know, I'm sure a doctor wouldn't have necessarily recommended him to play. I think that the risk of like that sack fumble thing where, you know, if his arm gets stuck back here while the forward momentum of his arm, and yes, that is the proper use of the word momentum. There's just momentum moving forward and it just gets stopped. Can't be good for the elbow. And that's obviously a risk you run by playing quarterback in the NFL, but the Bills did a good job of it, of preventing it at least. On Sunday, he only took 2 sacks, and Josh was very effective for the most part. Good news. I'm trying to find it. I guess the Bills technically still kind of control their own destiny in the AFC East, despite the fact that they fell to 3rd place. Unbelievable. They have another game against Miami, another game against the Jets, a couple against New England. So they like to say, everything we want is right in front of us. Okay. I think I've heard that a couple weeks in a row now. So just go take it. That'd be great. Be ideal. Good news. Good news. The Bills are obviously good enough to overcome themselves. I've said this before, the team that's best equipped to beat the Bills is just the Bills. They won that game how many times? I'm going to get into that in a second, but they just kept puking it back to Minnesota. And even then, they still should have won how many times? So they're good enough to overcome their own mistakes. A lot of teams can't say that. A lot of teams, they fumble once or something bad happens and they crumble. And the Bills can just turn it over 4 times and just keep overcoming it. Well, 3 times apparently. Couldn't really overcome the 4th one, but there's reason to be optimistic. There is. This happened last year too, right? The Bills they played at home actually on Monday Night Football to New England. And the New England attempted 3 passes and won. And then the Bills went to Tampa the next week and lost in overtime. And they fell to like 7-6. And we were all like, what the heck? The Bills are 7-6, not the Bills that went 13-3 the year before and went to the AFC Championship. These aren't our Bills. But they were fine. They won the rest of their games, and then they should have beat Kansas City, obviously, in the divisional round. But didn't. And that's becoming a concerning theme as we kind of transition into the bad news. That they aren't winning. How do I even want to word this? This is a winnable game. They gave this game away. Like I said, they puked it away. They puked it away. They wet the bed all over the place. I'm sure there's another phrase you could use. Probably not that nice. Maybe a little bit more expletives. Where do you even begin? Where? Pick something. Justin Jefferson? Do we start with Justin Jefferson because he's amazing? Yeah, he does this to everybody. I know it's a career high in receiving yards for him. But 10 for 193 and 1, like, Justin Jefferson seemingly does stuff like that just about every week. I wasn't necessarily surprised to see him go off, especially against our secondary, which was beat up. Kaiir Elam didn't play. Still don't know what's going on with Tre'Davious White. I thought the timing worked out nicely. The defense got introduced. I'm probably reading way too far into that. But the defense got introduced in pregame. I thought it was going to be like, number 27, Tre'Davious White, boom, and like crowd goes wild and stuff. Nope. I don't know what's going on there. He needs to play. We are, 1 week short of a year on that? I mean, I get it. The Bills are big on ramping up and, giving him his training camp during the season because he didn't have one. But it obviously would have helped. So the Bills were left with Christian Benford, a 6th-round pick, Dane Jackson, a 7th-round pick, Damar Hamlin, a 6th-round pick, and Cam Lewis, an undrafted free agent. No wonder he went for 193 yards. Taron Johnson's the leader in the slot, and he's a 4th-round pick, and he's a fine player. Of course he is. But, of course Jefferson had a big game. The Bills were just down. They were bereft of talent. Their middle linebacker even got hurt. Tremaine Edmonds got hurt and didn't come out for the second half. So they're playing Tyrell Dodson, an undrafted free agent. And they still held their own. They still should have won. Given all those factors, I think it's kind of impressive. I know Kirk Cousins ended up going for 357, 193 to Jefferson, but they had 2 interceptions. They sacked him 4 times. Dalvin Cook had 1 good run, and then he got loose a little bit more in overtime. But Dalvin Cook, you take away his best carry, of course. But I'm willing to write off an 81-yard run as kind of a fluke. Total breakdown, and he took off. So he had 14 for 119, including the 81-yard touchdown. So that means he had 13 for 38 outside of that run. And 29 of those were on 3 carries in overtime. So, I'm taking a lot away now, but that's 10 for 9 yards. Outside of in regulation, outside of the 81-yard touchdown. That's 10 carries for 9 yards. That's maybe there's another one in overtime that I'm not seeing. I don't have the play chart in front of me. But I remember 3 nice runs for Cook in overtime. 10, 10, and 9. Just because I feel like I have every play of the overtime memorized, and I watched it back, which I shouldn't have done. But I think the Bills did a pretty nice job overall. They did what could have really realistically been asked of them. There's just a couple, just one big thing. Actually, there's a couple. There's a list here. They had trouble getting off the field on 3rd down. And I know the Vikings were only 7 of 17 on 3rd down. And then there's the one big 4th down play, obviously. So let's just line them up. There was a 3rd and 11 to Jefferson that went for 46 yards on their first drive. There was a 3rd and 10 to Osborne that went for 20. There was a 3rd and 12 to Hockenson for 16. And then there's a 4th and 18 to Justin Jefferson for 32 yards. You have to get off the field on these plays. I don't care who's back there. How hard is it not to give up 54 feet on 4th and 18? Hey guys, just don't concede 54 feet. He's coming out of the 2-minute warning, no less. So Cam Lewis, even though he really shouldn't be in that position in the first place, he's only playing because Poyer's hurt and because the defensive coaching staff doesn't trust Jaquan Johnson after his showing against the Jets. That's the only reason Cam Lewis is playing. And I think he did fine, other than this play. He should know the situation still. You don't want, he doesn't bear all the blame, of course not. But he should know the situation. Coming out of the 2-minute warning, he should know that this is wrong. It's 4th down. Jumping up like this is wrong. You're jumping up with your arms up, and all you're going to do is this, or this, or this, or this, anything. You're not doing this. You have no business catching the football. Your only job is to make sure that that guy doesn't. And instead, because he goes like this, and Jefferson's arm comes right up in between, it's almost like he cradles it for Jefferson, who still makes an outstanding play. Don't get me wrong. But he just like kind of forms this little catch radius with his own hands for Jefferson. Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. They still didn't score on that drive. It led to nothing. All it led to was the first down play for the Bills at their own half-yard line. Granted, obviously, the Bills could have got the ball back at that point with however much time left. I'm looking it up now. Now, here we go. I got the drive chart. They would have had it after the 2-minute warning, so like 1:50 left. And the Vikings had wasted a couple timeouts earlier, so they would have only had one more. So, obviously advantage Bills. But credit the Bills defense again. Big stand. Twice on 4th and goal at the 1. They stop them because they go offsides on the first one. Then they stop Cousins on the sneak. Awesome job. There's just no excuse for what happened after that. We know this. Josh knows this. Mitch Morse knows this. Everybody in the world knows this. Ball security is the most important thing. I mean, if you look at it again, some people are like, "Oh, we should have went shotgun. We should have ran. Whatever." No, whatever. You could throw on first down. You could have, I guess, and just because there's only 44 seconds left, so the play probably conceivably would have taken maybe 4 seconds, even if it's incomplete. You're running the clock down to 40 seconds because they got the ball with 49 or something. Okay, maybe it was 40. Yeah. 49, I guess? Yeah, sure, whatever. So, they only have one timeout, so you could technically throw. I get why you don't take the risk. It's just an easier play. You're going to sneak it twice. That's exactly what the Bills are going to plan to do. Or maybe Josh gets 2 yards on the sneak, and then he just really quick kneel down on the 1-yard line, And just what happened is it will never, I don't think it's ever happened in the history of the league. I don't think it ever happens again in the history of the league. And if you look at the play, there is a gap over between Morse and the right guard. There is a gap there. Bates. They gave them that. Simple. Snap, go. But they fumbled. And it's recovered. It's not for a safety, but for a touchdown. Unbelievable. So the Bills receive a kickoff. Much to their credit, they get a little lucky with a pass to Gabe Davis. It should have been incomplete. They get in position for the field goal and tie the game, send it to overtime. They lose the coin toss because, of course, they do. And they end up giving up a field goal. Tough drive there. 2nd and 22 they forced. And then Benford took a DPI penalty that led to a first down, put him right in field goal range. But they got out of the 2-yard line. There was another deep play to Jefferson in double coverage again, and they had 1st and goal at the 2, and they didn't score a touchdown in the game. So at that point, when Minnesota kicks their field goal, I would rather be the Bills. 100%. 100 times out of 100, I'm like, oh my God. They kicked the field goal, thankfully. There's 3 minutes or 4 minutes left, however much time there was left when the Bills got the ball. I'd rather be the Bills for sure here. I felt the same way last week. I get why people are a little bit more hesitant last week again with the Jets because the Jets were playing very well. Minnesota wasn't playing super well on defense, and I just trusted Josh Allen to get him down the field. And then he runs for 38 yards on 2 plays, a couple passes to Diggs. They're on the 20-yard line. They're in business. They take an end zone shot to Knox. Doesn't work out. I'm not about I don't think there was really a penalty there. Maybe you could show me a screenshot or something. I just don't really care. And then Josh gets undercut by Pat Peterson, or Gabe gets undercut by Pat Peterson. Josh forces a throw to the end zone. I know Singletary was there on the check down. I think Josh will look for that a little bit more. But like the screenshot that people were passing around on Twitter, Josh is like this. He's already like in his follow through basically. Like he's not seeing Singletary down there. And there's 2 linebackers just out of the screen because I watched it a bunch of times. Like he gets 5 yards, and it's obviously better than a pick, but he's not getting a first down. He's open, sure. I think Josh has just seen himself make just about every single play that can be made on a football field, and he sees that, and he's like, I got this window, sure. I'm firing it in there. Didn't. Great work by Patrick Peterson. I think the Bills have, I don't want to call it really necessarily a problem, but I think they're, I'm going to make it sound like a problem by saying the word like ego or arrogance or something, but they have this attitude about them that's like, them versus everybody, and that permeates through to the fan base, and I've talked about that a little bit. I don't know. I heard Teddy Bruschi on NFL Live last week, actually, say that they act like, the Bills are a team that's act like they've won Super Bowls, and they haven't won anything, and I was like, that's a fine point. Like, I don't like Teddy Bruschi, obviously, really that much because of his association with the Patriots, but I was like, it just made me think, like, yeah, I see that, I guess. The Bills aren't champions just because the team sucked for 20 years before them. They still have to do the winning. And, I hope that anything like this can serve as a wake-up call to them. Really, I do. What else is there to talk about from Sunday? I mean, the one thing, and then I got to move on because I can't believe I've gone this long. I love win probability, fourth down aggression, all that stuff. But I think the Bills should have kicked the field goal. I know this is hindsight, 2020, Greg. That's easy to say now. I think the Bills should have kicked the field goal to go up 30-17. They were bad in short yardage. They have a short yardage issue. I think that kind of maybe plays into like this ego thing. Like they never play behind the sticks, it seems. They're always looking for the 10, 12, 15-yard plays. They don't like being in second down and third down, obviously. Nobody really wants to be in third down, but they're like, oh, we play big. We go for big yards. So they find themselves in 2nd and 2, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, and they can't move the ball. Hopefully they figure that out, obviously. But I think on 4th and 2, 27-17, even after the Dalvin Cook run, the Bills are fine. They march right down the field. There's 10 minutes to go. They throw he throws the interception. Josh throws that interception, which I don't blame him for. Your coach put you in this position, which is not necessarily a poor position, but he's like, I would rather trust you than just play defense at this point, than kick and play defense. And a lot of times I'm for that, okay? So I don't really blame him for the pick because he can't throw it away, he can't take a sack. So he just tries to fire one in there to Knox, and Peterson, because McKenzie's already gone out of bounds, undercuts it. Whatever. It happens. But I would have kicked the field goal there. You go up 30-17. I know what it says about win probability if Minnesota scores again and kicks the extra point, then you're down 6. But, I would just kick and keep playing. Anything you do on the scoreboard is strenuous to Minnesota at that point. It's like, oh, this is more points we have to score. And how many points this game ended up this way, but how many games, I should say, come down to 3 points in the NFL? So to pretend like it has just no value whatsoever is foolish to me. The Bills have kicking field goals, not even just the Bills, the league. Kicking field goals is like a lost art. People just don't really do it as much anymore. And I think there's something to be said about, in certain situations, just kick here and keep playing. Because you don't know what's going to follow your field goal attempt. Obviously, he still has to make it. At that point, it would have just been a 25-yard field goal for Bass, so I'm just going to presume that he makes it. And the Bills take a 13-point lead. You don't know how that changes the Vikings' approach or whatever. But even then, even after the Vikings scored a touchdown, the Bills got the ball back with 4.5 minutes left, and they really could have run out the clock because the Vikings only had one timeout plus a 2-minute warning, of course, and the Bills went 3 and out, short completion, incomplete punt. Just after a false start in there in the middle. Just bad. You're battling the clock there, and just a bad sequence. They took 1 minute off, and no timeouts were used by Minnesota. Anyway, they fell to 3rd in the division. Fell to 3rd in the past 2 weeks. Went from riding high, just up in the sky, to middling. They're a middling team in their own division right now. So they have this get-right game, hopefully, against Cleveland. But is Mother Nature dressing as the Grim Reaper this week and coming for our season? Like, I can't believe, like, the one thing that could really, really hinder the Bills on offense is weather, I suppose. Snow, wind. And we might get just a boatload of that this weekend. It looks like it might let up by Sunday. Who knows if they'll be able to clear it or what they'll be able to clear off the field, off the parking lots and stuff. You know, I'm seeing things about the NFL's aware and they're considering Washington or Minnesota or something. Or not Minnesota, Washington or Detroit, because the Bills play there next Thursday for Thanksgiving. I'm sure the Bills would prefer not to do that, just from a planning perspective, from their family's perspective, all that. But I want to go to the game too, to be honest with you. So I hope that I do get the chance to go, that it stays in Buffalo. But you know, that remains to be seen. There's a lot of decisions to make there. Everyone likes to say, not everyone, but like people are saying, like, oh, you know, this is a tough matchup if it snows because Cleveland is built to run the ball and the Bills haven't defended the run that well the past couple weeks. True, they haven't. They've improved it over the past 3 weeks. They've given up a lot. 208 to Green Bay, 174 to the Jets, now 147 to Minnesota. So that number's coming down a little bit, but they haven't faced Nick Chubb yet. Although they did face Derrick Henry and held Derrick Henry in check pretty well, but that was largely because their offense was just unstoppable and they just wrote Derrick Henry out of the game script. Be a good idea. Maybe they could do that. Will the weather prevent it? I don't know. Chubb averages 100 yards a game. He's got 11 touchdowns. I mean, Chubb's fantastic. And the Browns are pretty good on offensive line. They have Jacoby Brissett, who's not outstanding, but he's averaging 230 yards a game. Doesn't turn it over a ton. He's doing enough because he's only got 2 games left before Deshaun Watson comes back. So he is just he's a nothing to lose type of guy right now. But the bottom line is the Browns are 3-6. They've lost 5 out of their last 6 games. The only team they beat was Cincinnati, who for some reason they always beat. Joe Burrow has never beat Cleveland in his career. It's really strange. It's a game. The Bills they need to beat Cleveland. They absolutely need to beat Cleveland, regardless of Nick Chubb, regardless of the talent that Cleveland has on defense. The pass rushers, Myles Garrett, the corners, Denzel Ward. They're just better. Cleveland is second last in points allowed. Very middling defense in terms of yardage. They're 19th against the pass, 23rd against the run. Please, for our sanity, for everyone's in Buffalo's sanity, after a tough weekend with, getting bombarded with snow, we really need to see a Bills win. Injuries are probably going to play a factor, of course. Who knows? Maybe they keep Tre'Davious White out again. Maybe the short week following has something to do with that. Maybe he'll debut on Thanksgiving. It'd be nice to have him on Amari Cooper, even though it might turn into a big run game. It might look just like the Colts game from 5 years ago, which ironically, or coincidentally, I guess, Jacoby Brissett also quarterbacked for Indy. And then the Bills had Peterman and Kelvin Benjamin in that game. So I still think the Bills, and Joe Webb and Deontay Thompson, I think the Bills can somehow still find a way to be effective even if the weather's bad. I really do. Edmonds might not be able to play when it's going through injuries, I guess. It just seems like Tremaine, we're just going to hope for Tremaine on Thursday against Detroit. I don't know. I could list off the injuries and the things like that. It's just beat them. Please. Please just beat them. I'm going to try to make a video next week, guys. Usually I release them on Thursday. The Bills obviously play on Thursday, so hopefully I'll have the time to make this on like Monday or maybe even Tuesday. Busier week, obviously, with the holiday in the middle of it. But I'm going to pick the Bills to beat the Browns. Give me the Bills. Weird numbers because of weather. 22-13. Bills over Browns. Guys, hit me up on Twitter. Let's talk. Let's talk it out. Let's hash it out. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe in the snowstorm, guys. But as always, above all else, go Bills.